But most adoptive parents think love, stability, religious upbringing, and we'll shape this kid into a beautiful human being. And that does happen often. However, I deal with a lot of adoptive parents who are struggling because this kid's tough to raise. Doesn't mean he's not valuable in God's eyes. It just means he's tougher to raise. And as a parent, you got to be even better at this. You got to be more supervisory, better discipline, more stable, watching over the input from the culture that is misshaping their souls. Those kinds of things. That's part of it.
I think a lot of parents are afraid of adopting or fostering, certainly with older children where there's maybe trauma and a background that is more complex, so the needs are greater when they have other young children in the home.
One of the rules we had, we didn't adopt anybody older than our younger kids. Now, at one point, we adopted 2 4-year-olds and we had a 3 and a 1-year-old in the house. At that point, the 4-year-olds, we knew somewhat the history, so we felt really secure about their worldliness. But if you adopt an 8-year-old worldly child who's seen all kinds of stuff, and then you bring him into your home with a 2-year-old in your home, yeah, you're taking some risks, and you got to know that. But by and large, the children adapt well. One of the things I hear from parents who say, we have 3 bio kids, and now we want to adopt. Okay, how will the kids accept this?
It just breaks my heart that a child who's been through so much trauma is going to go into a house like this, where this guy perceives behavior as the bottom line. Whereas behavior is only the tip of the iceberg, and there's so much underneath behavior. And we're going to learn about later, unfortunately, how he shuts down behavior, like immediately, by blackout sessions. We'll hear about it later. And yet, he's admitting here that these children have come from trauma, and he's not treating that with the sensitivity it deserves. I am not saying, and I want to make this very clear to Dr. Ray, to Lila, I want to make this very abundantly freaking clear. I am not saying or advocating for permissive parenting. I'm not advocating to let those kids rule the roost. I advocate for rules. I advocate for boundaries. I advocate for natural and logical consequences. This right here, what he's about to describe, not natural and logical consequences. It is him imposing a punishment on their child. We don't need to punish our children because life has a way of giving consequences to children on their own. So honestly, if I'm a parent and I have raised my kids with respectful parenting, not that I think this will happen, but if it does happen somehow, where I've raised them with respectful parenting, which is equal measures of boundaries and high expectation and love and compassion and respect. When one of those gets out of balance, you slip into an unhealthy kind of parenting style, okay? So it can go both ways. It can go overly authoritarian or overly permissive, and they're both equally harmful. If my kids get to the age of like 16, I did this video of, I think it was like a month ago, about Sergio Nino, who was sneaking out with girls and everything. And I think that there was more to that story, by the way, than, what was being led on. I don't think it was just, because again, behavior is the tip of the iceberg. I always know from my nervous system science, brain development science education, that there is so much underneath what we are seeing on the surface here, okay? That's just the tip of the iceberg. If I had a child who was, out doing drugs, whatever, and they get arrested for that, that's a very logical consequence to an action.